Once again, good evening visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Rebecca Brady. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. Today, we acknowledge the members of the Royal Australian Navy Submarine Force, who are joining us to hear the story of Telegraphist Cyril Baker, HMAS AE1. We thank you for your service. Also welcome to the members of the AE1 Descendants Association and AE1 Incorporated Committee that will be laying wreaths today. We thank Mrs. Elizabeth Brenchley for her assistance in sharing her research on the crews of the Australian First World War submarines, HMAS AE1 and HMAS AE2. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Clubs who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. This evening we're also joined by visitors who will be laying wreaths. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families, friends, and Australians would mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers and forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
to Telegraphist Cyril Baker. Cyril Baker was born in Launceston, Tasmania on the 29th of November 1892 to John Baker, a miner, and his wife Mary Alberta Elizabeth Baker, known as Bertie. Cyril was the fifth of 10 children and was known as Buds to his family. Little is known of his early life, except that a month before his 19th birthday, he joined the Navy. Cyril Baker's ambition was to become a telegraphist. He served on HMAS Protector for 2 years in order to undergo training, and on the 22nd of January 1913, he passed his training to take on the rank of Ordinary Telegraphist. Within a year of his enlistment, Baker sported a heart and spear tattoo on his right forearm and a kangaroo and flag on his left. In February 1914, the first of the Royal Australian Navy's new submarines was commissioned into service. AE1 and her sister ship AE2 then left England together, finally reaching Australia on the 24th of May. Just over 2 months later, war was declared in Europe, and in support of Britain, Australia was at war. One of the first acts of the Australian government following the outbreak of war was to arrange for a volunteer force called the Australian Naval and Military Expeditionary Force, or ANMEF, to seize German colonies in New Guinea and the Southwest Pacific. Baker, now promoted to telegraphist, was appointed telegraphist on AE1 and joined the expedition. At 7 AM on the 14th of September, the AE1 left base to patrol along the coast near the Duke of York Islands. She failed to return. The submarine had been accompanied by HMAS Parramatta, which was conducting its own patrol at the same time. But conditions were extremely hazy and it was difficult to keep sight of the submarine. No trace of AE1 was ever found, despite extensive searches, and it was surmised that the vessel had been sunk on a reef or other submerged formation. The only option was to conclude that AE1 was lost with all hands. Telegraphist Cyril Baker was one of those men concluded to have been killed in the accident. He was just under 3 months before his 22nd birthday. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, along with more than 60,000 others from the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of courage and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember telegraphist Cyril Baker and all of those Australians who have given their lives in the service of their nation.
They have no grave but the cruel sea, no flowers lay at their head. A rustling hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of Memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you a very good evening.